I would like to welcome Kristen Hibbert from the Challenger Center in Bangor, Maine. She's going to share with us some of the programs that the Challenger Center can offer all of our students in our area. So Kristen, please go.
Awesome.
Take it away.
Thanks so much for having me, Eric. All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so again, I'm Kirsten Hibbert. I'm the Executive Director here at the Challenger Learning Center of Maine. Some of you may recognize my blue coat. If you've worked with our flight directors before, we say they suit up. So you may have worked with different directors, especially our lead flight director. But I just want to make sure you had my name and my email. This presentation, I'm going to show as many pictures and videos as I can, not as many words. But I want to promise you that all the details to everything that I present today is on our website. So our website here, astronaut.org, has everything that you could want to know. And if not, feel free to reach out to me by email or by phone with any questions. So our Challenger Learning Center is the only one in Maine. There are Challenger Centers all over the US. We are located in Bangor, right off the interstate. Very easy to get to. We're actually right across from the airport. And we do service the whole state of Maine. That's why it's not the Challenger Learning Center of Bangor. So we're an informal education center. We're a nonprofit that really focuses on hands-on exploration and discovery and really focusing on STEM careers. So we use space, kind of as that spark to interest students, but a lot of it is for them to try out different STEM careers. And then we also try to tie it back to even different companies in Maine that are looking to have students possibly come work for them in those different career models of STEM. The Challenger Center, so some of you may say, okay, Challenger Center, that sounds familiar, Challenger. So the Challenger Center was started as a national organization after the 1986 Challenger shuttle disaster. There's a picture of Kristen McAuliffe. She was that first teacher in space mission. So as many of you know, in January 28, 1986, those astronauts did die just a few seconds into their launch. So immediately their families wanted to continue their legacy. Really, that passion for involving the students in space missions. And they didn't want to make a statue somewhere, so they made the Challenger Centers. So our center is one of over 40 centers across the US, a couple internationally. And our center was opened in 2004, and we usually serve about 4,000 to 6,000 students a year. And again, we service all the counties of Maine, and I'll talk about our in-person and virtual options that we're running right now. Last year, we were only virtual, but even virtually, we ran over 125 virtual missions and connected with over 3,000 students. So we're much better at virtual, but we are offering both this year. So in today's presentation, I'll go over our in-person space mission simulations. That is what makes us unique and as a unique resource for you as an educator in Maine. We do have great virtual space mission options. So again, was developed last year, and we're actually still doing them right now and this year. We do have other STEM outreach options, so I'll just kind of touch on those a little bit. And then partnership programs. All right, so what we are really a field trip destination. The core of who we try to come visit is grades 5th through 8th. And what it is we have different space simulations of missions that NASA has done or missions that NASA will do. So we have a cooperative agreement with NASA so that our space missions really are things or ways that they might go back to Mars or highlight missions that they've done, such as collect samples from a comet, and really align with kind of NASA's initiatives. And on our website, it breaks down all those details you need, like NGSS standards and all those good things. But I wanted to give you a tour as if you were really at our center today. So the first one I have here is, so let's say you decide, okay, I want to do an in-person mission at Challenger this year. That will be a fun field trip for my 7th graders. So one example is we have a couple mission scenarios. So One scenario is rendezvous with a comet. This kind of goes over, our website will have what grades they're best for, our crew size. Right now with COVID, our preferred crew size is 24 students, so we can space them out appropriately, but we can work with schools, about your needs. Missions are generally 2 to 2.5 hours long, and then it kind of gives that mission scenario breakdown for each mission on the website. But ultimately what it is when students come to our center, they're ultimately assigned a job. So they are the professional as if they work for NASA in a space mission. So we have a manifest, we have job descriptions, and we work with educators to find, the best job fit for the students that they have. And then ultimately they're broken down into 2 crews, mission control crew, and then an astronaut crew. They secretly will actually get to do both, but initially that's how we have them broken down here. So in my pictures, you can kind of see they actually get a job badge. They take a crew photo here in our lobby. And then the right here, I actually have our briefing room. So I didn't put all the lights dramatic because I wanted you to see that it looks like a briefing room. But what happens is once students come to our center, once their mission has started, we've assigned them to a job team, that we treat them as professionals. STEM professionals for their mission. We don't say students, we don't say boys and girls. We call them by their job title. And then in the presentation, we say, all right, this is the mission objective. Here's what's expected you now as the navigation professional. Teachers aren't supposed to help. Mission commanders are just here to make sure timing wise we're doing okay. We really want the students to feel like they are running the space mission. So what I did, if we were on a tour here, I would walk you through our simulators. So we have a simulator of mission control, simulator of the inside of a rocket, and the simulator inside of what we call a space lab, or what would be kind of equivalent to the inside of the International Space Station. So I actually just did a walkthrough this week with just a kind of, it'll be a silent video. So I'll talk over the video as I play it here. But I wanted you, if you were an educator coming to our center, we'll go kind of fuller screen here. So again, we split up the crew into 2 groups. So half of the professionals will go into mission control. This is our mission control room. There are lots of mission controls at NASA. Ours is modeled after the one at Johnson Space Center, which is the one used for human space flight. So each student, each professional would be assigned a job station here. You can kind of see the titles at the top of the consoles there. They get a computer to do their research. They actually have a camera computer, so they get to see inside the space lab, see their astronaut peers in action. There's screens at the front of the room to give mission status updates, views outside of the space lab. But again, cameras inside that are always watching the astronauts, like real mission control. You'll also see headsets on the side of the consoles there. So they actually communicate with their peer, their astronaut peer, through email, through headset. Even in this room, there's a communications officer, which is a student, and they have a script. They'll say space lab, this is mission control. We have an update for the robotics team. So those mission controllers, those students really are running the mission. They are in control of the mission, literally. They're telling the astronauts what data they need to collect. And a neat thing here is during a mission, each one can have a slightly different outcome sometimes, depending on which job team reaches which part of their data and research collection. And it's neat too, because they'll kind of keep looking like, oh, the teacher's not helping me. And we'll say, what do you advise? If things go too smoothly, we'll hit them with some emergencies. But once they start knowing that they get to make the decisions for their mission, it becomes very empowering for them. I always joke that it's like handing middle schoolers the keys to a car, saying, all right, you're driving today. Where are we going? How are we going to do this? And we give them all the tools they need to have a very successful mission. And also a neat thing here is that about halfway through the mission, we always have something unexpected happen. And then they get to do a very NASA style risk analysis or risk assessment, where as a group, they are going, sorry, I'll go back full screen here. As a group, they'll actually get to compare their data that they had at the different job stations, say, okay, with all this data collected from all of our different jobs, how should we proceed with our mission? And that's kind of also a good chance then for us to switch teams. So if they were mission control, they get to now be astronauts, but they get to decide how they'll proceed with their mission. based on their data. So it's also those soft skills, teamwork, communication. You can be the best engineer, but if you can't communicate your results, it won't matter. And the success of the mission could be dependent on that. So the other half of the group, or even halfway, then they get to switch, goes to our space lab. So on the left here, this very blue image is our transporter room. So students will go in there and they'll actually get to see whatever launch is actually happening or applicable for their mission. So lots of students are getting more familiar with Blue Origin, SpaceX launches that are happening more and more often. Sometimes we still show our Soyuz rocket launch out of Kazakhstan. And then, obviously, if it's a Mars mission, the correct trajectory, we would take off the moon to land on the surface of Mars. But in this transporter room, we're really talking through the steps of what would happen during a launch. And for middle school students, NASA really wants us to let them know that their entire lives, there's been a US astronaut in space, their entire lives. And just kind of thinking about that and making it really relevant for them is a fun thing. So once they go through the transporter room, they then enter our space lab. So, and again, I'll show a video as I talk here. Again, I just did a walkthrough tour this week. So for the space lab, the same jobs you saw in mission control are the same jobs that you see in blue here for our space lab. The space lab is meant to be a hands-on data collection research lab. When the Challenger crew families wanted to make this and kind of had this idea, there's this great story that the commander's wife, Dr. June Scobie Rogers, who was an educator, actually went to the set of Star Trek and tried all the different sets and said, okay, how can we make that, but for students and make this magical? And so our space lab was created. So if you go to Challenger centers all over the US, this room would look very similar. So, and the best thing is when astronauts are up here, students, when I say astronauts, I mean students. Again, they're that professional, but they're collecting the data and sending it back to mission control. They're the eyes, the ears, the hands of the researchers back on Earth. And here we can actually, you can see our clean room here. So they're also wearing headsets communicating, but we can replicate some of the current research that's happening at the International Space Station. What's happening right now? So a student can get excited and go home and look up that research of what's happening now. So it's very relevant for them. So as you can see, we have glove boxes, isolation chambers, our life support. We have all kinds of emergencies. We have oxygen emergencies up here. Again, they have to get message from mission control, know how to deal with the emergencies and send back data. Does this seem like this is safe or an unsafe environment for the astronauts up here? We have robotic arms, just like Canadarm2. One of our newest integrations that we actually will have in February is many of you are very familiar with Jackson Laboratory. So Jackson Laboratory sent their own mice, mighty mice, to space to really look at when their muscles degrade and bones degrade when astronauts are in space for long periods of time. So we actually get to replicate their actual experiment without live mice, but their mouse habitat, information they were collecting for their research. We get to integrate that into our biology station starting in February. So here's an example. Main student gets to do a space simulation and then in one of the job stations, integrate in a main company, so in connecting all of those dots, it's just such a fun thing for our space missions. And again, they're 2 to 2.5 hours. We have a couple different scenarios. I happen to have our Comet scenario up. We do have a great Mars mission, especially for older students. For 7th, 8th, 9th, that is a great one also. And then we actually have something called Exploration Lab. So if you have 3rd through 5th graders, we actually set up little job stations where they have a booklet and they get to go all around and collect different data at the different job stations. So it's not a full mission, but it goes into the simulators and hits on the different jobs that they may visit. All right, so I just gave you a whole bunch of info, but our in-person mission kind of frequently asked questions from educators. I want to start off, I think the most important thing, so obviously I also have the website, but one of the most important things to know for spring 2022 is Challenger actually has a large amount of grant funding available for schools in Maine, more so than we actually ever have at one time. So for missions this spring. So we are doing in-person missions, in-person space missions right now. And we don't want funding to be a barrier for your school. So if you think, oh, I can't pay for that, or it's too much, reach out. We can make it happen because, again, we have funding available for Maine schools to come. We can accommodate different start times. So yeah, a 2.5 hour mission, that's involved. We know that you may be coming from all over. You may be coming off an island, on a ferry, on a bus, and then to us. And you know what? We are used to dealing with all kinds of schedules and restrictions. So it's easy for us to accommodate different start times for your school. Also, so for COVID, your schools would be the only one that would be in our building. So it's almost like taking your sixth graders just from their classroom and just putting them in a different building. And in fact, if you have certain pods or groups, we can replicate that at our center. So the only other people in the building would be the 2 staff members running it in the simulators with you. All our staff and then visitors, you all would be required to wear masks. And then you may think, oh my gosh, a trip to Bangor, oh, that's a big deal. Maybe I need 2 missions. What's going to happen while one group is running a mission? Well, we have a lot of partnerships for the greater Bangor region. So if you're one single mission, so a single group or 2 groups, and you need something in between or really want to make the most of your visit, we partner with your group could go to the Cole Land Transportation Museum, could go to the University of Maine Planetarium for a show. You could maybe even go to the airport or to our local CNL Aviation for a tour, different career opportunities we have here in Bangor. So we're used to really making sure to make the most out of your visit to Bangor and helping it work for your school and your school's schedule. But the biggest thing is don't let funding be a barrier. Reach out and we can make it work for spring 2022. So I just wanted to pause in case there are any questions right now.
So the funding for the schools, does that cover the cost of the Challenger Center and transportation, or just the Challenger Center?
Oh, great question, Eric. Generally, our funding is only available for the Challenger Center programs. The partnership with the Cole Land Transportation Museum, Cole would cover busing. So if you came for a mission and then also went to the Cole Land Transportation Museum, they would cover the busing for that. All right, so that was in-person missions. So still is running during COVID, but again, and very specific for schools. So Challenger virtual space missions. So again, I keep putting the website on here. Astronaut.org will have everything you need, anything I've missed. So virtual space missions, when you're thinking, okay, I can't come for a field trip, there's no way, that's not happening, I still want to do something. Virtual missions are very easy, quick options. So we all know field trips in person even take a while to coordinate. So if you're looking for another great option, virtual missions are that option. So we have 2 great virtual missions. I have them here on the screen, Destination Moon and Destination Mars. So Moon is for a little bit older students, Mars is for a little bit younger, but they're 2 really great missions where your students will still be the mission controllers running a virtual mission. The neat thing about Destination Moon here on the left is this mission was also developed directly with Blue Origin. So Blue Origin, again, Jeff Bezos launches that they've been doing with a whole bunch of celebrities recently, but ultimately the goal is for them to go back to the moon. And so Destination Moon was set up and developed with Blue Origin of their actual plan to go back to the moon, and their rocket and all the stages for that. So that one is a particularly really fun mission because it's really relevant of what's happening. It seems like every other month with the launch. So virtual missions, you're probably thinking, okay, how's this going to work? Virtual is kind of even a scary word to say out loud lately. But a fun thing about virtual missions is that it can be done in any scenario. So whether your students are in your classroom with you, we can connect with you. Your students are in hybrids. You've got your classroom, but then 3 students who are in quarantine, but still connecting from home, we can do a mission. Or if all of your students go fully remote, we can do a mission that way. We will connect through whatever is the school's preferred web conference tool or platform. So whether your school has to use Zoom or they have to use Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, we do it all. So whatever works best for a school is how we would, the tool we would use. And then how do they even connect? So I'm going to talk about the in-class scenario. So you're the educator, your students are with you in the classroom. The students just need their one-to-one device. So laptop, Chromebook, iPad. I will say laptop, Chromebook is preferred. And then you will get a link from the Challenger Center. So the link is a link to a website that runs the mission software. And each student's link is unique to them. And then ultimately, if they're all in the classroom, we actually just have Challenger at the front of the room. So we would be at the front of the room on a smartboard or a projector with a camera and speakers. And that's how we would be at the front of the classroom, but all the students would just be at their desk with their computers. And to kind of show you that breakdown. So the students are in this scenario are still mission controllers. And in fact, different missions, so our 2 missions, have 4 job teams. So here I have the job teams of the mission for Destination Moon. So they're broken up, into 4 job teams. Ideally, you have 4 or less students per team, but again, that's where we can flex with whatever an educator needs. And each student will receive their own link. So if there's a tracking team of 3 students, we'll have tracking 1, tracking 2, tracking 3. So each tracking team member will have their own job link. And on the lower right hand of the screen, that means that during the mission, they have their own screen of their own jobs that they need to do during the mission. So on the right, I just kind of did a screenshot of the initial objectives that the tracking team would need to know to run their mission. And this is just another screenshot here. So then you're thinking, okay, so just like a mission here, instead of job stations, the software has their own computer, the student's own computer as their job station. So here I took another screenshot during phase 2 of the mission for the tracking team. So they did triangulation. Now in phase 2, they're worried about the ring fins, and they go through different scenarios that they need to get done for their mission objectives. But ultimately, they're still working as teams. And so to kind of explain this a little bit more, for a virtual mission, again, we have funding for virtual missions. Virtual missions are about an hour to an hour and a half. We can accommodate, again, different start times. So for this, it's more class period lengths, so we'll have teachers, educators that say, I have 50-minute class period, or mine is 55 minutes. Perfect, we'll make that work right in your class period. And they'll say, I have a no minute break in between, or I have 5 minutes, or I want you to do session A, B, E, F, sessions on these days. Perfect, we can do that. And we can run 2 missions at a time. We generally like to run 1 mission group per classroom, if that gives you another concept of that. There's actually minimal teacher prep other than saying you're interested, picking your date. We just have a 10-minute prep call. We can give you more information if you want to kind of lead up with your group and do some pre-work or post-work. But it definitely is easier than coming for an in-person field trip. But we do like to say it's minimal teacher prep. Also, it's very easy to transition a virtual mission from an in-classroom mission to a remote. In fact, just last Friday, I won't name the school, but it was a middle school. They were all set up for a virtual mission. It just happened to be in classroom. It was last Friday. Thursday evening, our staff member got a note that says, oh, we're going fully remote tomorrow. Well, guess what? No problem, because they already have, each job team already has a link. We just made the Zoom or the Google Meets link that they needed, which was an easy way to just switch to remote for virtual. So we literally can do it that day if needed. So that's where a virtual mission is very easy when you don't know what's going to happen at your school day to day. But even though it's a virtual mission, I'll definitely say that each job team has a chance to work as a group and share as their group. So just like our in-person missions, I said there's that risk analysis, same thing in virtual missions. The flight director, the ones in the blue suits, I know flight director is a different term, they will ask, all right, tracking team, come on, let us know what's happening. Oh, can you give a team update? Weather team, what's going on? We need to see if this will affect the rest of the mission. So there's still that interaction. And that's where the Challenger team really still engages at, even in a virtual world. When the students are in the classroom and we're connecting virtually, we actually like them to try to sit in their job teams, because that's really empowering. So you'll see these groups, they'll start working together. They'll come to the front in front of the smartboard to present out. So then if it's fully remote, we just have breakout rooms if that's allowed at your school for fully remote missions. So virtual missions, great option in an unknown world. We're actually running, I would say in the month of January, more virtual than in person, but both are great options. So I just wanted to stop. I've talked a lot. If there are any questions.
So on the for the links, for the individual student links, does the Challenger Center send all of the links to the teacher, and then the teacher's job is to get them to students, or are they emailed? How does that work?
Yeah, I have a very small manifest. So we will email the links to the teachers. So this is kind of our spreadsheet. You can see the tracking one team, and this is literally their link. And a teacher can, as simple as just saying, here's a list of my students, and we'll put in the student's name into here. And you can see there's also an observer link. That'd be the link for the teacher. And so then many times the teacher will email them out or put them in the Google Classroom, and students can click on them direct. They'll see their name and click on it directly. We clean up the spreadsheet a little bit more, but however they share within their classroom. And it's also a great way, if there's ESL student, if there's a student with an ed tech, we can pair them together, in many different ways for that, to make sure that everyone has the link to participate together for that. So those are our two big items, virtual and in-person missions. We also have other STEM outreach. So other STEM outreach is kind of this other catch-all. So we have a lot of different programs that we do. So Monday through Friday, September through June, we run missions primarily, but we have a lot of other programs. So we call that STEM programs, we call it after school, and then our camps. So obviously a teacher may not want to know directly about camps or their classroom, but you all have that student that might have that interest that they just need a little push, or they need an opportunity. So just to be aware of. So that's why I'm kind of mentioning these other things. This very quick rocket launch. So some of our STEM activities, these are things that we can come to a school. We can run these STEM activities at Challenger, or we can even run some of them virtually. One of them, just this rocket launch. So we have a NASA paper rocket module that is super fun. This is one we just did in December with students. And again, can be those 3 different scenarios of what's best for your school, especially during COVID. But, STEM activity, some of our STEM activities aren't all just for space. So I want to highlight one of our most recent STEM outreach programs was actually Wind Turbines. So we run this for grades 3rd grade through 8th grade. We haven't run with 9th or 10th grade yet. But what happens is we have each individual student or student pair will have their own little wind turbine. And we have a standard blade design we have them make, and then we let them design their own blades. And we have an intro about electricity and ways we can generate it. But ultimately, we also give them a multimeter with their wind turbine, and they get to put it all together, and then they get to see which of their blade design is going to have the best voltage output. So this is a really fun, powerful module that we do with students. And so a scenario would be that you come to Challenger, and then you can also do a STEM module while you're here and pair it with a mission. Could be opposite a mission. We've taken this to schools. We've run it in outdoor classrooms, all of the above. But this is just an example of we have some other great packages, so we have a school that says, I'm not in a good space unit, or my 4th grade, gosh, we really want something with wind. Well, cases are we may have something that would complement that. But again, all in the theme of hands-on exploration, building, testing. And we run some of activities like this during our camps. Just some other kind of quick FAQs for STEM outreach programs. So again, your school at Challenger virtual. We also have funding to assist with STEM programs. Again, it's this kind of the spring time frame, spring 2022, we have this funding, and that STEM programs can be paired with missions. We also run after school. So I know some of you are like, after school, I'm done with school, I'm not involved. Some of you may be involved with after school, but just to let you know that Challenger does run in-person and virtual after-school programs. So we go into our local Bangor schools, and it all is STEM focused. We also are running a lot of virtual programs for schools in Lewiston right now, and even Peru. We've run programs for Rumford, that sometimes we'll maybe run a 4 or 6 week program once a week for your after school program. Again, all hands on. So we will make a kit, send it to the school, and then the after school program virtually could connect with us through whatever platform the school prefers, but then we use a hands-on activity program for that. And then just something to be aware of, especially at the middle school level. So a new program that we're piloting this year. So I don't have any cool pictures for it because it's starting soon and we haven't done it yet. We are running a Cube satellite after school program for middle school students. So there are 2 middle schools that we're running it at this spring, March through June. And the middle school students will build a Cube satellite that will be the payload in the fall 2022 launch for Blue Shift Aerospace, which will launch from Maine for their suborbital launch. And middle school students get to be part of it. So our students this spring in the after school model will build it, pick which sensors they want to use on it, 3D print the housing, 3D print different test housings. And then they're also going to make a virtual reality, our favorite Oculus headset, actually interaction to help tell the story of what they're building for their families and for the public. So there are a lot of awesome elements that we're piloting, and then hopefully our plan is to keep running it in the spring. And as you can see, we run a lot of virtual programs so that even if we're not physically close to your school, but your school might be interested, reach out, so we can see if we can work something out for next spring. And then, like I said before, for summer camp, so the picture I have on the screen is actually of a camper doing one of our experiments in our space lab, that we run 8 weeks of summer camp for K-8. Everything from robot tech to astronaut academy to exploration Earth, really trying to hit on all letters of STEM in all different ways. Each week, we also feature a guest speaker, usually as a NASA guest speaker working in all different capacities with NASA. For Astronaut Academy Camp for middle schoolers, we usually take them to the University of Maine, go into a lot of different labs, and including the planetarium. But it really is a chance to not just do fun STEM activities and test things out, but really talk about careers, and what that would mean. And then I think important thing for teachers, for you all to know, is that this year we have the most scholarship funding available for summer camp than we've ever had. So if there's a student who is interested, all they have to do is send an email. It's the easiest application for their parent for a scholarship ever. And because we want to reduce those barriers for students so they can attend a camp and get so excited in the summer. So again, I've left out a lot of details, but our website, astronaut.org, has everything you could want to know, but also you can just reach out to me, even something as informal as, I think I'm interested in this. How can you make this work? And if I can't help you, I'll make sure I have another team member that can help get everything worked out.
Well, and I can attest to the summer camp. My son went to summer camp, did the Earth Explorer program last summer and just loved it. It was so fantastic. He had such a great time, came home with all sorts of cool stuff. And he just had a blast. He was very sad when that week was over. So, so this has been great. Thank you so much.